What's up guys, welcome back to Pat Outdoors. Today we're checking out the newest version of the X1 Spark by Qronge. I've already had one of these before. I had the early production X1M model with the 1412 wheel set. Pretty fun bike. It was a lot for what you pay for, but there were just a few things that I didn't quite like about it, such as the half twist throttle, the speedometer calibration being way off, and I wasn't a big fan of the black and orange color scheme, especially not orange wheels. But apparently they've made quite a few changes since the early production models, and they now offer it in all black and made a few changes to the bike. So let's go check this thing out. And here's exactly how the new X1 Spark comes from the factory, partially assembled. And here's everything else that came in the package. The 17-inch front wheel, front fender, kickstand, user manual, charger. This one is a 67.2 volt, 2 amp output. So this is a 60 volt bike. Geez, 2 amps. I would have figured they would have upgraded to something like 4 or 5 by now. 2 keys. Now these items got shipped separately in a smaller box. This is the rear shock, front number plate with a built-in headlamp, which is a huge upgrade from the previous ones. Toolkit, right side foot peg, hardware for that, and miscellaneous hardware to assemble the bike. Right off the bat, you can see it's a huge visual upgrade from the previous model. Let's go put this thing together and get a closer look. That is definitely a plus with Qronge in comparison to other pit bike manufacturers is how easy it is to assemble their bikes. Especially in the hand controls area, everything pretty much comes pre-assembled, so it's very easy for the end user to figure out how to put it together. That is one thing that I wish was different with the Qronge, is that the foot pegs and kickstand hang well below the bottom side of the frame, which makes it difficult to put on any sort of dirt bike stand. There's also a portion of the frame which is not fully boxed in. So you can see this portion and then the rear portion where the swing arm bolts onto are pretty much bridged together by this brace holding the motor in. The front axle comes with 2 wheel spacers. The wider one goes on the side where the brake caliper is mounted, and then the shorter side goes on the opposite. Just gonna add a little bit of multi-purpose grease on the front axle before we throw the front wheel on. You got to make sure that you install both of the washers included with each bolt. It creates just enough clearance for the backside of the bolt not to make contact with the rotor. Huh, battery's plugged in. Oh, forgot the Qronge has this button that doesn't allow the battery to power anything until you click it on. So to turn an X1 on, you have to turn the battery on first and then key the ignition. Then if you're gonna be storing your bike for a while, not riding it for a few weeks, I suggest you turn the battery off. And one last thing to do is installing the turn signals for the taillight assembly. Probably figure out which one is left first. And that's it. The X1 Spark is now fully assembled. Took me just a little over half an hour, and keep in mind I'm by myself and I'm also filming at the same time. So it's really easy to put this bike together. I'm gonna leave it on the charger for a few hours before we take this thing out for the first time, since I can't believe it's only a 2 amp charger. But so far, this bike is looking so much better than the previous models. I think the mixture of gloss black and satin really go well together as a clean color scheme. I also really like how the L models come with a full twist throttle. Actually, I believe all the 2026 Qronge bikes now come with a full twist. Brakes still look the same. The L model comes with the larger 1714 wheel set. Well, some things have not changed, like how they mount the taillight assembly with a bolt that goes through the rear fender like this. I think it's still a little bit odd. I wish they just bolted it onto the rear subframe, but it's not a deal breaker. Especially considering this is supposed to be a 50-mile-an-hour larger bike for $1,500, which comes with a 60-volt, 28.8 amp hour lithium battery pack, mid-drive motor, LED headlight, LED taillight with functional brake lamp, turn signals. Again, the larger wheel set. It definitely packs a lot of features for the price point. If you are interested in getting more information on the X1L or any of Qronge's other bikes, I'll leave a link to their listings in the description below. You can also get yourself $50 off this bike by using discount code PATOUTDOORS. Again, to start the bike, you need to make sure the battery's turned on. There's a blue light that's around the button, and key the ignition on. On the right-hand controls, you have the mode switching. 1 is the lowest power and speed setting, 2 is the middle, and 3 is the fastest. On the left-hand side, you have the headlight switch, turn signals, and the horn. Okay, we are fully charged. First thing that I want to test out is definitely the speedometer accuracy, since that was my biggest gripe with my previous X1. I think the speedo was like 6 miles per hour off at 50 miles per hour. All right, let's test it out on mode 1. Okay, hard cut at 20 miles per hour. Mode 2. Hard cut at 38 miles per hour. That's pretty interesting. This is the opposite of the previous X1M problem. Before, the speedo read way too fast. Now it reads 38 miles per hour on the speedometer when it actually goes 39 on the GPS. I gotta say, that is a first for an e-moto company. Now let's try it out on mode 3. Now, the speedometer reads 49 miles per hour when the bike's actually going 50 miles per hour on the GPS. So props to Qronge for actually delivering on what they promised. Oh shoot, was that the front fender? I never thought that the X1 was a slow bike. It certainly has a decent amount of power and accelerates pretty well, though the throttle feels a little bit funny to me personally. I almost feel like it's walking off on me when I'm just like trying to cruise at 2/3 throttle. It almost feels like it's accelerating on its own. But so far though, huge improvement from the previous model. I really like how this bike looks with the satin black and gloss black mix, though I think the large front tire might be scrubbing up against the fender somewhere under full compression. Let's see what kind of lap time we can get on the new Qronge X1L. I am just using an iPhone timer, so it's probably going to be 1 or 2 seconds off since I have to reach for my phone to start and stop it, but we'll put the actual time up on screen. And just for some perspective, some similar bikes that we've tested in the past, such as the Yamaha Ion 10 Pro, got 1 minute and 47, and that bike's supposed to make 5,500 watts of power. Has a similar 1714 wheel set, but it does have a stiffer suspension setup than this. And then the Q's HP131L got 1 minute and 42 seconds after we tuned it beyond 8,000 watts. And that has a 1916 wheel set, so I'm expecting the time for the Qronge to be somewhere close to the Yamaha Ion 10 Pro, but we'll see. Oh, she's quick. brakes could use a little bit more grab initially. Suspension's handling really well though. A little bit soft on the front end. I'm gonna take the old route, just so we have a fair comparison with the Osmas. Oh shoot, that was like a minute and 42, 43. I'm gonna put the actual time up on screen, but I believe that was a minute and 43, which is pretty freaking impressive. That's barely behind the Q's HP 131, which costs twice as much as this bike. Now I did hear a couple sections where the fender may have hit the front tire, so I can tell that the suspension fork is a little bit on the softer side in comparison to the weight of the bike and the type of wheel set that's installed on it. I do also have a pretty odd feeling whenever I'm hitting bumps, like the rear is almost bucking me forward. I think it's just the seated position where the rear almost seems a smidge too high in comparison to the front height. But overall, ride's pretty smooth on the trails. Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the front fender bottoming out. Power-wise though, this thing's a rocket. Yeah, the brakes, not as sensitive as I would like. Next thing I want to test out is a hill climb test. This is a really rough ravine we got on the backside of the property. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. I know it's a little bit hard to tell on camera, but this is actually a pretty long and steep hill climb with a bunch of roots throughout the whole thing, so it's pretty challenging, especially for the smaller pit bike style bikes that we're testing. Let's see how it does. Oh yeah. No issues with power whatsoever. I think the only thing that I'm feeling is the suspension being a little bit imbalanced front to back. Like the front suspension fork is on the softer side while the rear is a little stiff. My bad, sir. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I just noticed. Yeah. This is the new one.
This is it. Got a 3,500 pound winch on the front.
Nice. I really want to get myself something like this. I was just talking with a friend of mine this morning and he's trying to sell me on the idea of getting an electric golf car with suspension and then just throwing some side-by-side or quad style tires on it to make it more capable off-road.
What you doing this weekend? Much anything?
Just testing out this new bike that I got.
Yeah.
Comparing it to the last one and seeing how much better it's performing. So that's my neighbor Stuart. We're actually riding at his property right now, and he built all these trail systems along with the ones that are on my property. He also gave me access to his tractor with a flat bucket on it so we can start building ramps, and he actually just pointing out some logs on his property that I'm going to be able to cut up and use as obstacles for a enduro track that I'm putting together. I feel like I'm pretty lucky to have him as a neighbor. All right, let's do one more run. It just started raining, so. Yeah, I mean, this thing handles really well and it's really fast, but I gotta trim down that fender because that's gonna bother me. And my X1M didn't do that, I think simply because it had a much smaller tire on there. Let's do another hill climb, going the other way. Suspension though, besides that freaking fender noise, it's handling pretty well. I can go, even go in a really bad line like I just did, and it'll still do it. Too bad it started raining. The ground's getting wet. This thing's a freaking blast though. Like, this is a lot of bike for 1,400 bucks. Now, if you are a taller rider or you're simply looking for a larger bike, you may want to consider the Qronge X1. It's got a 50 amp hour battery, 6,000 watt output, 1619 wheel set, and a top speed of 65 miles per hour for just $500 more. Me personally, I'm patiently waiting for their flagship model to come out. The X7 has a peak output of 12,000 watts on a 72 volt system and a top speed of 70 miles per hour for $2,600. I haven't seen anybody review this yet at this point, so we'll just have to see how it actually performs whenever it comes out in August.